Okay, so welcome in everybody to the Housing Directors meeting. It's been about 2 months since we've met, so hopefully everybody had a great holiday, great Thanksgiving. So I'm just gonna jump right in. The Governor's Housing Conference. If anybody wants to share, if they attended, if something caught their eye about it, please share with us. I did attend. I attended virtually. It was hard for me to hear. It was very hard for me to hear, but some of the sessions that I went to, I'm not going to remember the exact names of them, but there was a session given by our HP members about regional, Ian, help me out with that. What it was about regional housing.
Regional housing coalitions for small urban areas and rural localities or something along those lines.
And then that was informational. I mean, I think since I work here, and like I said, it was our people we work with, I sort of knew a lot about it. So I knew, what was going on with it, but it was just interesting to hear, what's going on in regional communities, since most of us work regionally in our area. So that was interesting. There was another session that was about racial equity in housing, and that one was very interesting. And that was Matt Lawless spoke about that. It was a book. I'm not going to remember the author, but it was basically, he was talking about a book that dealt with that information and how we can be more equitable. So that was an interesting talk. And then there was the 3D housing one, which I thought that one was really interesting. I don't know much about it. I keep hearing a lot about it. As far as it being very trending and buzzworthy, and it really, really made me wish I could hear better. But it also prompted me to kind of like really go on my own and looking for it. And I do think in our region, it's something that we should think about. So those were the things that caught my eye. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about that caught their eye they wanted to talk about?
I went. Oh, Trish, you might have to mute just because we're right next to each other.
Yeah. Sorry. Hold on. Okay.
So yeah, oh wait, I'm still hearing it. You had to mute yourself, Shareen.
Hold on, I'm gonna have to stop sharing. I can't see anything.
Oh.
I was trying to
Yeah, so so obviously I work here at the PDC, and we had our regional housing partnership chair and vice chair present, and it was actually a really good presentation. We've had I think sort of the idea is that it was presented to folks that either work in localities that are similar to ours or are interested in establishing regional partnerships. So I thought that went really well. And they, I don't know exactly who they talked to, but they had a bunch of people come up to them after the event to presumably get more information about the RHP and how it can sort of be transposed to other regions. I was also really interested by the affordable. I could hear better, I guess, because I was there. I think the 3D printing one, I think it has a lot of potential in terms of the one that's happening currently in Richmond is being funded by Virginia Housing as a pilot program. So I think if you control the land in some of our rural localities, it seems like a really interesting way to potentially develop a bunch of housing. The main thing they emphasized was how once you establish an economies of scale, it's a really efficient process. Once you have the actual giant printing rig out there, you can print 8-12 houses a lot easier than 1 or 2, or at least a lot fat that, the time diminishes over, yeah, you guys understand what I'm saying. But so yeah, actually the last one I thought was really interesting was there's a neighborhood in Norfolk called Old Huntersville, and they worked, so it's a historically Black neighborhood just northeast of downtown. At some point, maybe 10 years ago, 1 in 3 of the lots were either vacant or contained blighted properties. And what they did was they worked with the residents of the neighborhood to develop a planning book, so developers wouldn't have to go through the architectural review board. They could go to the planning commission office and basically pick out one of these designs if they wanted to build a house on one of the lots. And the idea was that it was sort of generated, the design of the building, so sort of this form-based idea, it was generated by the residents. So there wasn't any real opposition when you wanted to build a new house. And it sort of fit the neighborhood character. And they described a lot of scenarios of people, for example, a lot of the population of that neighborhood is looking to age in place. And so a part of the development, a lot of it was sort of for either their kids or their in-laws to live near them, and they could there was a way that they could share a driveway, or if they could live in the people who had lived there could move into an ADU, and the kids could move into the main house. Like, situations like that really preserved the not only the character of the neighborhood architecturally, but also the people retaining the population of the neighborhood. And I thought really was a way of potentially staving off gentrification, though that wasn't necessarily a component of the discussion. I think this is one avenue that you can diminish or not diminish. You can make sure that displacement isn't happening at such an accelerated rate as you're seeing in other areas of Norfolk where they didn't do this. So I thought that was really interesting. It was cool to be, we were in Norfolk. It was cool to learn about the city that the conference was taking place in. I enjoyed myself. It was a good time. Oh, and I'll mute now.
Does anyone else want to share? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna put myself back on mute because next up are updates from Ian on the PDC Development Grant, the VERP Implementation Grant, and our HP events update. So I'm gonna go back on mute.
Great. Well, I guess we have a lot to talk about, or not, I don't know, maybe not that much, but a lot is happening in the PDC's housing realm with those three initiatives. So I guess I can start first with the PDC Development Grant. Our deadline for submission for our proof of concept was last Monday. The 26th. So about almost less than 2 weeks ago. We received 5 submissions from various applicants totaling about $6 million requested. We obviously only have $2 million to give, so we're going to be deciding and sort of hopefully splitting that money across the region. But we were really impressed with some of the applications. A lot of them were proposing, there's a nice mix of homeownership and new rental construction across the region. So right now what we're doing is we're reviewing the applications, and we will have a decision. So sort of the way it works is we're not selecting our partners just yet, but we're going to have what we're calling priority applicants, where we'll basically have a much longer application that'll require a pro forma and different documents related to land control, zoning, community engagement if it's been done. But those are, for all intents and purposes, those are the projects that we'll have selected. We just need to sort of do the due diligence to ensure that they're financially viable and on the timeline that we need everything to be done by, which is June of 2024. I guess that's that. Yeah, that's the main update with that. I thought I was really excited with the variety of proposals that we received, and we're looking forward to, blowing past the 20 unit requirement, which is what Virginia Housing has for us. We're expecting to really surpass that by a lot of units. So more information forthcoming, probably, well, maybe not by the next meeting, but definitely by February, we'll be able to announce who we've worked with. But we're looking to maximize this money as much as possible. So that if that means potentially, going back to applicants and saying, what can you do with this amount of money rather than the amount you've requested, that's on the table, because Virginia Housing is allowing us to sort of split the money in as many ways as we want. So we're going to be looking to maximize, the number of units that we're going to be constructing, or that could potentially be constructed. So that's the PDC grant update. Very exciting. That sort of begins in earnest really next year, where we're starting to, instead of a solicitation role, we're going to be sort of the oversight, role of these partners that are actually doing the construction. So I will move on to VERP, which I have up. Oh, sorry, give me one sec. I had the. Okay, so we applied on the 11th for, I guess, and if anyone's not aware, we successfully completed a VERP planning grant, which is the Virginia Eviction Reduction Pilot Planning Grant Program. we had $50,000 to essentially construct a needs assessment and court records database with the UVA Equity Center, as well as a work plan with a knowledge advisory group, which is a consulting group based out of Richmond. We took both the needs assessment, the information from the needs assessment, and I kind of call it the eviction picture of our region, as well as the work plan, which we worked not only with the consultants, but an advisory committee consisting of, folks in the eviction prevention space, realtors, landlords, tenants' rights groups, local government housing policy people, sort of the whole spectrum of folks that would need to be involved in that. And we ended up applying for $330,000 or $330,526 to support direct assistance, a landlord outreach position, and eviction case manager positions, both housed at the new housing hub, the Piedmont Housing Alliance Housing Hub over on High Street, along with some money for outreach and administration costs. I'd be happy to provide the full breakdown of what we asked for, but we submitted that on the 11th and hope to hear back from DHCD, I would assume by the end of the year. I don't know. We anticipate this grant being a pretty competitive. Oh, we also had a good amount of local matches from the Albemarle County Legal Aid Justice Center, City of Charlottesville. So we think we presented a really strong application. It was a very short turnaround. I can't emphasize how little time we had to basically put this together in less than a month. But we're competing against a lot of other regions that, according to the state and according to sort of what they're defining as high risk eviction areas, we're not necessarily one of the most the critical need areas according to DHCD, but there is a considerable eviction problem in our region, and this would really go a long way. Standing this programs up in the next year would really go a long way, and hopefully, diminishing that here. So we'll keep everyone updated. I'm really looking forward to, if we don't receive our full amount, I really hope we receive, a majority of what we asked for, because, we've worked really closely with Dave and Sunshine over at, and I guess Kristen, you too, over at PHA to really develop these positions, and they'd be great. So that's the VERP implementation grant update. And then, briefly, I'll go through the events committee stuff, and Stacy obviously is the chair of our events committee over at the Regional Housing Partnership. But this fall we've had 2 successful programs. We had one in October that was a regional housing roundtable. Some of you may have attended, where we had 4 of the 6 localities come and share their recent housing initiatives. I thought that was a really good roundtable. A lot of attendees. We had like 100 people sign up, and I think for both of our events we had about 70 actual attendees. But the second one was a webinar that was primarily focused on rural housing challenges and then potential solutions. And we had Jesse Rutherford, who's a Board of Supervisors member over at and chair of the TJPDC over in Nelson County. We had Jonathan Knopf from Housing Forward Virginia, which is a statewide organization, and then Colleen Fisher from the Council for Affordable and Rural Housing, which is sort of a national, almost trade association for this arena of housing. So I thought that was really interesting to hear the federal, state, and local perspectives. We have 2 more in this series in January and February, taking December off, but we have an event on missing middle housing in January, and then one on faith-based organizations in affordable housing, which I think is going to be really, really interesting, considering the amount of potential development that's happening here in our region, working with churches and working with church-owned land. I think that's going to be that's something that I've been thinking a lot about as a potential, giant source of land if churches and other faith-based organizations are willing to develop, on the land they own. So that's the update. I'm trying to think of anything else. No. So yeah, a lot of stuff happening where we have, we're sort of in and out of grant applications here, but and I guess the last thing I'll mention is that the Regional Housing Partnership is engaging in a strategic planning process that will be wrapped up by June of next year. So that's kind of the overarching sort of longer process to develop, not only the direction of the organization, but some of its initiatives, some of our goals, really kind of re-examining the purpose of the partnership over the next 3 to 5 years, and what our role in the regional housing conversation is. So that is is my update from my side of the CJPDC.
Can I add something to that? As the
Yes.
the events.
Yes.
We are considering doing a 1 or 1.5 day in-person event next year. That had been the plan for last year, and obviously that was not possible. But we are beginning to brainstorm potential topics for sessions during that summit or conference, whatever we choose to call it. So if y'all have anything you're interested in hearing about session topics, feel free to email them to Ian, and we can add them to a list that has not yet been made.
Yes, thank you. So that is a fresh out of the oven, new idea. So we're working this month to really nail the themes and some of the sessions down for in the event would happen fall of 2022. So very much looking forward to that. But that's all I got, Sharice.
Okay, I had a quick question, and I'll give a very quick update on Home Arp. Question about the missing middle. Is the missing middle talk going to be on housing type or what am I trying to say? Income, middle people. Does that make sense?
Housing type.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah. So like that, there's that infographic with like ADUs to, large scale apartments. So like infill development within existing lots in urban areas. I feel like that's my understanding of what, but also we have two panelists that I can workshop that with, but that was my goal, or like what I was envisioning for it.
I think we could work income in there also.
Oh, for sure. I agree.
That's an important part, and why it's important to have housing for that particular demographic. And then this is the type of housing that works for that type, and it all fits together. Yeah.
Okay, so update on Home Arp. Right now, we are hoping to plan to get started on that after the holidays. There has not been much work on it. We know we have to do the gap analysis. Like I said, we've been, I know on my end and Ian's end, and I'm sure on Aaron's end, there's just been a lot of stuff that end of the year that we've been trying to beat deadlines with. We anticipate really digging into it, getting into the gap analysis and the qualifying populations and the different organizations we're going to need to work with to go and get that action plan updated. And so we can get rolling on those funds. So just putting it out there, we definitely want to get going with this. That's a lot of funding that our area can use. But we have to do our due diligence and figuring out how we're going to use those funds with the qualifying population, since it does not fall into the same category as our regular home funds. It's a whole different set. So more to come on that. I'm going to share my screen again with the agenda. And I'm sorry, guys. You know what? Next time I'm going to sit somewhere else, Ian, so we won't have this issue with the echo. Our desks, we're like right behind each other. Okay. So HPG award contract. I have to read what I said because I think after I wrote this, I received the award notice. So we received the finalized version of the Housing Preservation Grant Award. I will be sending out those contracts for signature by mid-January, maybe earlier. There are things that have changed for those localities that I don't think anybody is on. Well, Alabama, Stacy's on. Normally in the past, the grant would be a 2-year. We would get it every year, but it would be for 2 years. That's changed. It's now we have to spend the money in 1 year. And what we don't spend, we have to send back. Right now, from 2020 funds, everything is committed, but we still have $60,000 to spend. It has to be spent, not committed. So I am really going to be pushing for our rural localities to find ways to, I mean, there are definitely ways. We don't have to find them. I'm sure it's finding the right projects to attach the funding to, because we don't want to send funding back that we can be using in our area. So we have to spend $133,105.75, every single penny of that, by September 30th, 2022. Or we have to send it back. So just be aware, it's more aggressive because we want to spend it and we want them to see that we use the money in the area. So in future years, when we apply for this grant, you know, that we'll continue to get it. At the time that I sent this out, CAPER edits, Aaron and I had completed the CAPER edits and we had sent them in. We had not heard. Yesterday, we heard that the CAPER was approved. So the 2021 CAPER is approved. We're all good. Next thing we will have again, start this whole cycle, the ARP action plan amendment to the 2020, but then the annual action plan. So our CAPER has been accepted. Any questions before I move on? No. Okay. So earlier this morning, well, right before this meeting, actually, I sent you a proposal from Nelson County Community Development Foundation. I'm sorry it was last minute. Margaret wasn't sure she would have been ready, and she was. And so I'm going to go ahead and propose it. But I'm going to first explain for those who don't know what the Choto Revolving Loan Fund is. And I'm just pulling up the email so I can say this properly. So the Choto Revolving Loan Fund, early in the Home Consortium's history, Piedmont Housing Alliance was the only Choto in the region. That being, so all the Choto projects were carried out by PHA and all proceeds went back to them. Over time, other nonprofits became Chotos and took turns, as we do, being awarded the Choto funds, retaining the Choto proceeds and using them for future projects. But PHA had amassed a good pile of money in Choto proceeds. So the consortium began making those funds available through loans, and the nonprofits would bring proposals for it to utilize the funds. The Housing Directors Council would receive and review the proposals, and the selected project nonprofit would enter into a loan agreement with PHA for the funds. The terms are generally 0% interest for a 3-year maximum term. So what we have, what has been sent before us from Margaret and Nelson County Community Development Foundation, and I'm going to stop sharing and share that. And right now, this is for questions. I already got some questions from Alex about it that I'm going to have to go back to Margaret to ask, because honestly, I don't know the answer to one. His questions were how many units and what is the AMI? For these funds, it has to be 80% or below, because it's you know, Choto. So that I know the answer to. I don't know how many units. I'm going to share this screen. Hold on. So what Margaret said in her proposal is, I regret not being able to attend the meeting today. The Nelson County Board of Supervisors is having a special called meeting to discuss capital projects in Nelson, and I feel that it's essential that I be there. Please accept this memo in my absence. NCCDF is requesting that we borrow $200,000 from the Choto Loan Fund. These funds will be used as bridge funding for construction of workforce housing units in the Renaissance Ridge project. As I understand it, the loan is 0% interest for maximum length of years. Please let me know if you have any questions. I thank you for your consideration. So other than the questions that Alex proposed, like I said, it's going to have to be below 80% AMI, and whatever contract is written, that's going to be written in there. I need to find out how many units. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sure I can probably go look at the project and see, but I'll get it directly from, you know, NCDF just to make sure. Are there any other questions that you all feel I need to go back and ask Margaret in consideration for this proposal? And in the past, I looked at other, what's been done in the past. I think right before Billy left, NCCDF requested 180,000. And I know going forward, Christina and I are going to get more formal arrangements on how these proposals are requested. But it was fairly loosey-goosey like that. And I talked to Bill, and Bill's like, yeah, this is kind of how you do it. But so if there aren't any other questions, if you guys want to think about it, because it does have to be agreed upon by the housing directors, and that would be the city, because part of Home Consortium, Albemarle, Flavanna Louisa Housing Foundation, who's not on the call, Skyline, and PHA, because you're the guys that we have the agreements with. You would have a vote in whether or not this passes. So you don't have to give me your questions now. If you have more questions, you can email them to me, and I will get back to Margaret, and we'll make a decision from there. And does anyone have any questions now? I see some people coming off mute.
I do. And I should probably know this because we're supposed to use JODO funds for Southwood, but what's the affordability period on those?
For a Choto project, the affordability, you know what, Stacey, I would have to look into it because these are Choto revolving loan funds, and this is all new to me, to be totally honest.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, I don't.
I know as far as they have to pay the money back, which is different for the affordability period.
Right.
They have that 3 years, but I will look into that and get back to you. So I won't make stuff up on the spot because I feel like I should. But
that might be also a question that you want her to.
yeah, actually, I think this is something that I should know. So I'm just writing this question down. What is the affordability period? Okay, I will. And I'll send a email out to everybody with all of the answers to all these questions as I collect them. Okay. All right. So I have that question. Anybody? I thought I saw either Kristen or Kathleen come off mute. That you guys have a question? No, you don't have to because I called you out. just want to make sure I don't barrel through. Okay. Okay. So keep that in mind. I will ask these questions. I will get back to you guys. And I also will have to speak with Flavanna Louisa Housing Foundation and Skyline Caps, as they're part of this process as well, to make sure that they will be on board with it. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again with the agenda, mainly because I need to keep myself on track to make sure I'm okay. So that was new business, old business. So a couple months ago, I asked you guys if you had anything you wanted to share, success stories of how home funding or HPG funding in your area has helped your clients, or any good news stories that we can start sharing on our website. And Flavanna Louisa Housing Foundation sent 3 videos that we're still working to get on our site, technical difficulties, but 3 videos about from, I think 2 of the clients received home funds and 1 of the clients received HPG funds, and their own words on how the funding has helped them. So once that gets on our website, I will share that link with you guys. But also, if you guys want to share things, it doesn't have to be a video. It can be a story or a quote, a testimonial, or any, that home funds or HPG funds has helped in our area. I highly encourage it. It promotes the program, and it also promotes your organization. So please share it with us. So now we're to roundtable updates. And I will stop sharing for this because it's roundtable. So Ian and I have given our updates. I'm going to just go down the screen as I see you guys and call your name if you have any updates. So Aaron, you're the first person on my screen. Any updates from the city?
I'm about to send out timeliness reminders, so that's my update, I guess. And I just issued a home RFP for next year. No CDBG though, because of timeliness issues. So yeah.
So Stacy, you're next.
Yes, the biggest project we have is Southwood, obviously. And I was mentioning before we started, the CDBG contract is coming through. So I feel confident now I can move forward getting the CHOTO funds committed. So CDBG funds are being used to build 5 single-family homes, both detached and attached. And that's a $1 million contract. And that's with Habitat. The CHOTO funds will do an additional home, so it'll be 5 homes for Habitat through there. Other things that we have going on in the county, there was a large development approved several months ago. There's a mobile home park in the Hollymead area that was purchased. The developer is going to provide it's going to be 200 some units of multifamily units included in the project, along with some townhomes. They had originally stated that about 75% of the multifamily units would be affordable with the LIHTC application. They are now looking at providing 100% of those units as LIHTC units. So that'll give us an additional 200 some, maybe close to 300 units as affordable in that area where we don't really have much. So we are working with them on that, trying to figure out how many will actually be affordable. I am working with developers, local developers, to come up with an incentive package to help them reach the recommended 20% affordable housing in the housing plan, housing policy. I have an idea. Not being an official planner, I'm struggling on how to figure out exactly how to make it work. But the idea would be an affordable housing overlay in the development areas with the density bonus that will get close to 2 additional market rate units for every affordable unit, which should help offset the cost. And if I can't get the 2 for 1, then it'll be 1 point something market rate units with additional incentives, perhaps parking reductions, reduced setbacks or step backs. I'm working on that. Fee waivers, that part I don't know yet. But that will be going to the Board of Supervisors in February, so I got to figure it out soon. We are, the county had done, while the ABRT application process has completed, we are currently reviewing those applications for funding. But we use the same process for the ARP funds that the county set aside, the board set aside, and that application process closed a couple of weeks ago, and we are reviewing those applications as we speak. So that's really where we are today.
Thanks, Stacy. We have Kristen.
Andy's not here, so I'll share probably his news. HUD approved our Friendship Court project. I think that was one thing that we were waiting on. So hopefully we can get a groundbreaking scheduled sometime by the end of this year, because I know Charlene had purchased shovels or something with 2021 on them, and she does not want to have to, file that off and somehow put on their 2022. So I think that is the news that I would share today.
Thanks. That's great. Kathleen.
Hello, we continue to be really busy on several fronts. We have active construction at Crescent Halls and phase 1 at South First Street, and are working on our site plans over at 6th Street. We also have our annual plan process happening right now, and we'll be having that approved at the beginning of January, and then stepping right into our capital funds program. But Congratulations, Kristen. That's great news.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for sharing. A lot of stuff still going on, even though the end of the year is coming. So, I mean, that's great for our area though. So, our next meeting, we're gonna go back to our old time, well, the time before the holiday break. So our next meeting will be January 19th in 2022. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, everyone. And from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Like I said, I will check back in with NCCDF with those questions, but like I said, send me your questions if there's more questions, if I can answer them or Margaret can answer them. You know, we will do so because I know this is something that she's passionate about and she really wants to do. And, you know, we just want to make sure we get those questions answered and get the ball rolling on the project to keep that project moving forward. So, anybody have any more questions for Ian on VERP and the Pdc Development Grant? Ian's there. Ian's doing a really great job. Thanks, Ian. I listened to Ian when he's talking to people. It's like, oh, step right in and, you know, kept things moving. And for the RHP events, Ian and Stacy. And don't forget on our website, the events, I try to share those events when I know that they're coming. But you can always register, go to our website and register there because we have a link that, you know, the RHP events page, and then there's a link to registering. I will keep everybody updated on how we progress with Home Arp funding. I know that Aaron, Ian, and Christine and I are going to have to get together once we get started on that. And yeah, that's it. Only 41 minutes this time. We have been going for the full 1 hour. I know you haven't been here, Stacey. For those of you who don't know, when Billy was here, somehow she managed to pack 2 hours of information into the meetings. And I feel so like, what am I doing wrong? I can barely get 30. And then the meeting started to go for an hour, and now 41. Hey, you know, we earn a little bit of extra time on our schedule back. So, but thank you everybody for joining. I will see everybody on January 19th. And don't forget to send me your questions. So everyone have a good